Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Yeehawlads podcast, episode number 135. I'm all alone in the studio today. I gave the fellas the week off because it's the week of Christmas. We normally record on Thursdays. Christmas fell on a Thursday this week, so we kind of decided, you know what? Don't worry about it, and I figured I'd just throw something up nice and easy, give you guys something to listen to, and give them a little bit of time not to worry about the show. So, this week we're going to go through a time capsule and go through all of the cars, trucks, bikes, and everything else that I've ever owned. And just kind of go through the time periods, what I did, when I got them. But first, we got to get through Joke of the Day, Festive Edition. I'm going to tell 3 of them because I got to kill some time, you know? So let's start off with number 1. Where does Santa sleep when he's traveling? The answer to that, in a ho-ho-hotel. After that, we've got, what's a cow's favorite holiday? The answer to that one, Moo Year's Eve. And then one more to round us off, we've got, what do you call an obnoxious reindeer? The answer to that one, Rudolph, because he's a little bit rude. Anyway, so this week, I'm going to go through all of the cars, trucks, everything I've owned, starting in chronological order from when I purchased them. So there's going to be a lot of weird overlap, but I'm going to do one at a time. So we might jump back and forth in time a little bit. But hey, that's just the way the show is going to go, doing it by myself this week. So first up on the chopping block. This was technically never my car, but I consider it the first car I drove. Therefore, it's considered the first car in this list. The car in question is a 1998, I believe. I don't remember the year exactly because I didn't own it. Pontiac Grand Prix 2-door in silver. Car had a big chunk missing out of the bumper. It was a beater. It had a bunch of miles on it. And the 4th gear solenoid had burnt out of it. So everywhere you were going, it was running 3rd gear at like 2,500 RPM or higher even. So it wound this thing out hard for a lot of its life. This was my older brother's car. He bought it for a work car, this and that. Eventually, it got handed down to Dad for him to use as a work car, and then I got to drive it once I turned 16 for a very short amount of time until it blew all the rods out of it in about 2014 sometime. So the car literally spontaneously, all of a sudden, like not one rod knock, not 2, like the entire motor at once decided to just detonate. Still ran, but ran very noisily. So we parked this out back and ended up selling it in about 2015, November-ish time frame, if I remember correctly. Sold it as a parts car to a guy who wanted it, it was never anything fancy. It was just a good little running car. Most of the parts on it were decent. After that, we move into what is properly my first car. My first car in question would be a 2010 Ford Crown Victoria Police Interceptor. This was our local municipality's town police car. They used it up until, I believe, this would have been March 14th of 2015 when I purchased this from a mail-in bid auction, silent auction, however you want to call it, for $2,800, 2,828.28. A weird contingent number, just it's something fun, make it all the same number. And that only won it by like $21. So it was actually good that we did a 28, 28, 28 repeating. This car had just about 100,000 miles on it when they retired it. They still had pictures of it all dressed up and all of its fancy police badging and stuff. I actually got it with a lot of the stickers still on it, which then took a couple days worth of removal with an eraser wheel, just scraping the side of the car up and down to get all this stuff off there. But eventually it did clean up rather nice. It's a good looking car, all clean. But it's really just nothing fancy. It's exactly what you think it is. It's a V8, 4.6 liter V8, rear wheel drive, body on frame, tough 4-door car. It's got generic cloth seats in the front, generic vinyl seats in the back. Has it been thrown up in? Probably, but it's a story for another time. It was just a good little running driving car. I had this car for a long time. So I bought this car on March 14th, 2015, and we drove it pretty much until it died. The transmission, it had problems with the gauges, the exhaust, everything had been worked over. Had head gaskets, had intake manifolds done, a bunch of things. And eventually the transmission died in about 2019, and that's where we finally decided, okay, The car's had enough. It's giving up. We probably could have put a transmission in it, but sold it to some kid to run in a derby for a little bit. Just as something, there it goes. Give it a final rest. It was a good little car. Even convinced Andy, who's not here, to buy the other local town's car. So we both had 2010 Crown Vics at the same time for a little bit. That was kind of a fun little, I get to tell everyone how great this car is. And it really is an amazing car. The Crown Vic was one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. And at some point, I will own another one. It was a great car, and I told everybody about it. Then Andy bought it, and he's like, wow, this is a great car, and told everyone about it. He sold his to another guy who drove it for work and sold it to another guy. Like, it's still running around these days. But towards the end of its life, this was right before the transmission went out. We put it on 18-inch Mustang wheels wrapped in Nitto Terra Grapplers. It was such a good little combination. The car looked so good. It sounded right. Everything was done good on this car. It probably went through a dozen exhaust systems. We went everything from mufflers out to muffler and a cat out to this and that, back and forth. We changed a bunch of things to get the car's tone just right. The final iteration, I believe it was 2.25-inch custom-made exhaust my younger brother made up at their auto shop class. Overall, it was a really, really good car. Definitely will have another one of these. It didn't make any power, made 250 horsepower, I think. But, I mean, it's just what a Crown Vic makes, It was just a fun car that you could not break. And trust me, I tried. Next up in the list of things is not a car, but is in fact a bike. The next thing we bought was August of 2016. This was a DRZ 110, which if you're not familiar, is the same as a KLX 110, which is Kawasaki's 110cc pit bike, kind of mini bike styled thing. We bought this super cheap. I can't even remember how cheap it was. I want to say it was like $200. Running, riding, whatever. Like the kickstart lever was broke off of it, and I think the kickstand was bent or something. Like minor stuff was wrong with it, but it was so dirt cheap and just up the road. It was a no-brainer. Even me knowing nothing about bikes at the time, it was a no-brainer to scoop this thing up. We got it with the original yellow plastics, which honestly is a good look. But at the time, it's like, well, these are all cracked, broken up. We threw some fresh black plastics on there. Everybody thought I just spray painted the bike. I had so many people like, oh, you actually put plastics on it. I thought you just sprayed it. No, I actually you can get a set of OEM-styled plastics, not OEM proper, for like $30 at the time. They were stupid cheap. So the amount of times I put plastics on this bike is probably about 4 or 5 sets. Because the front fender gets broken, the back gets broken, they get cracked. It's just the way it happens. But especially when you put a bunch of people on a bike who don't have enough experience on it. Luckily, the 110 was pretty slow. We got a smallish yard, or we have a decent-sized yard. So we have room to ride, a couple things. So it wouldn't get beat up too bad till we take it to the indoor track up in Mendota, try to air the thing out with no skill, and it got broken a lot. The fun part about it getting broken a lot means that you're willing to throw parts at it to fix it. So a lot of these parts getting thrown at it were obviously upgrade parts because I'm not going to put the same junk on there as before. So this got a 143cc big bore kit, a Power Core 4 exhaust, which at the time I thought was good. Turns out not so good. Got KX80 front forks, which helped raise it about 2 more inches and gave it like 3 more inches of travel. Just a really nice minor upgrade set. Ran it like that for a long time. I think for about a year and a half. This was probably September of 2018 or so by the time it got all these parts put on it. Actually, no, this is January of 2018. I've got some dates written here I'm kind of trying to keep track of as I go through it. But so January 2018, I got the big bore kit, got the exhaust, got the forks. It was kind of a nice little upgrade package. Ran it like that for a while till I believe we were riding up at a park called Rocky Glen, went into a hole that was a little deeper than it should have been, hydro-locked the motor, bent the connecting rod, so it's like, well, got to take the motor apart again, which was kind of a theme at this point because we keep breaking it. And at that point, we did a stroker crank, we did a couple other little things, like upgraded the bike all the way, put a 4th gear mod in it, this and like, it was a good running bike, still on the factory-styled centrifugal clutch, not a hand clutch like a lot of people go to. To this day, I swear by that clutch. It's so nice not having to think about shifting with your hand. If you rode up racing bikes, whatever, you're probably totally used to it. But as somebody who it was their first bike, You just add more springs, better plates, and it works awesome. Just bang the gears with your foot. Don't have to worry about using your hand whatsoever. We ran it like this for a little bit longer until eventually around Christmas time, got a Yoshimura pipe for it, which helped it quite a lot. Extended the swing arm 3 inches, new shock in the rear, a couple other little things. And this is how it sits today. It's been like this for about 5 years. Pro taper bars, stretch swing arm. It rides awesome. It makes a ton of power. It should probably be on a bigger, better tire, but it gets road driven a lot just because it's, you got nothing else to do. You might as well just cruise it up and down the road real quick. It's a really fun bike. You can throw anyone on it, start them in second or third gear. It's got enough torque. You're not just going to bog the thing out for a mile. It's a nice, perfect little bike. Still have this today. Go to the next little section here. Got this all kind of sorted out to keep the flow going. So far, not so bad. Next up, we've got the one and only 1994 Ford Ranger. This was one of the first things I bought as just like I already have a car that works fine. Let me get a second thing so I can have a little truck. I've got a bike at this point. I'm like, I want to take it places. I can put it in the bed of the truck. I bought this truck down in Springfield, I believe, for like $600. The truck looked really nice. The front end had been hit by something. The bumper was bent up, so we took that off pretty much immediately. But it's got a nice metallic blue paint on it. Single cab, long bed. 2.3 liter 4-cylinder, manual transmission, 2-door, 2-wheel drive, factory, no air conditioning. Not that it didn't work, it didn't even have air conditioning. All it had was an internal heater. Somehow this was an XLT trim, even though it had hand crank windows. I don't know. Technically it was, had a sliding rear window. That was like the thing that split it apart into being not an XL, but had some chrome trim, had nice wheels on it. I suppose that's what an XLT was, but for no power windows and no air conditioning, XLT's changed a lot since then. So I bought it out of Springfield with a bent radius arm. And what that means is basically the front passenger side tire was bent in about 15 degrees. So it had a bunch of camber and extra toe on it. The guy there would not let you drive this thing home if you were more than a couple miles outside of town. So obviously I just lied to the guy. I'm like, oh yeah, I got a buddy with a shop across town over by kind of, named something I'd driven past. He's like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about. I'm like, yeah, it's like a 5-minute drive. Well, I'll worry about it then. Okay, sure. Yeah, no, drove the thing all the way home. It was probably a bad idea, all things considered, but hey. So this was July 25th of 2017. So at that point, I would have been, 19? Yeah. At 19 years old, you're like, yeah, fuck it. I'll drive this thing down the road. What's the big deal? We drove this thing a lot. It already had 180, 200,000, or, somewhere in the low to 200,000 mile range. Drove it a lot. This was my daily driver most of the time because I got roughly the same mileage as the car, maybe a little bit better, but it's a manual 4-cylinder, so you can just wing the thing out, and it was a ton of fun. Finally changed the clutch. I think it was the factory clutch, July 15th of 2018 at 215,000 miles. And honestly, it wasn't even that bad, but it kind of started to slip a little bit. I think the clutch slave cylinder had started to leak. That was the reason we're like, okay, while it's apart, let's put a clutch in it, do the slave cylinder, do the master, do it all at once. Worked out really good, drove it for a lot longer like that. Eventually, around 2022, the main wiring harness kind of would start shorting out and getting a little bit weird to the point where one day it just shut off while my dad was driving it back and forth to work. And then it didn't restart, brought it home, wiggled some stuff. It started, shut off, back and forth. It was just super unreliable for a little bit. So we kind of parked it. I'm like, I can fix the wiring on it. But at the same point, we've all got other things to drive. So it kind of got pushed into the back and it's still sitting there today. It was just a very simple, clean little truck. No bells, no whistles, nothing fancy. It just worked. It was just a nice little truck. Until one day I smoked a turkey vulture with the windshield. I was on my way home from college or whatever, because we went to local college. It wasn't anything crazy. I'm not fancy book learned, But I was on the way home and I kind of driving a back-ish road, kind of a main back road, but still. I come up over a little whoop and I see two birds like eating something on the road. I'm like, oh no, birds. And I see them get up out of the road and they don't fly off to the side. They don't go swoop. They go straight up and I smoke probably a 20-pound bird right in the windshield. Shattered a big old chunk out of it. I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, I like driving this thing. Now I got to go put a windshield in it. It's going to be expensive. It was like $180 for a windshield, and then the labor was like another 100. It was like under $300 cash for a new windshield. I'm like, sweet, easy, absolutely. Kept driving it for a long time. Eventually, it got the same Mustang wheels with Nitto tires that were on the Crown Vic, because at this point, the Crown Vic had already died and gotten sold off. So it's like, they're a perfect fit for this truck, other than they needed wheel spacers to get this offset right, because the Mustang wheels are a really flat-faced wheel, where these were a really center offset. So I believe they had a 2-inch wheel spacer in the back and like an 1.5 inches in the front to get it kind of squared up right. But being a generic 5-lug Ford pattern, the wheel spacers are everywhere, especially at this time. They were getting super popular. So it's easy to grab a set of 2-inch spacers off Amazon for like $60. It was super awesome. I believe that's it for the Blue Ranger. Like I say, it just sits and rots today. Maybe one of these days we'll do something to it, but that day is not today. However, the next thing has already come and gone. The next thing in my little list is a 1994 Jeep XJ Cherokee. I'll admit, I was an XJ guy for a little bit. My older brother had bought this and beat the piss out of it. This picture is the condition that I got it in. So don't think this thing was a spring cherry that I put to field. No, this thing had been beat and abused. I bought it off my older brother for about $500, I think, back in November of 2017. This was an off-road trail rig that just happened to have a title. I don't think any of us ever put the title in our own names. Never put plates on it for sure, because it would not have been good. It was the factory Dana 30 in the front, and I believe it had the Dana 35 in the back. I know it could have been like a Chrysler 8 1/4 or a 35. I want to say it was a 35. I don't know. Whatever Andy had at the same time, if he had an 8 1/4, I had a 35, or if he had a 35, I had the 8 1/4. Because he had spare axle shafts. I needed one day, wouldn't fit. I don't remember what's what, but just the way it is. So this is the condition we got it in. It was beat. It had been rolled a little bit, but it's a trail rig. We had a local park in Marseilles about 40 minutes away, made for Jeeps and trucks and stuff. So it was like, yeah, we'll go up there on the weekends and play around, trailer them obviously, because it's in terrible shape. And it was honestly a good running little rig. We'd go to the cliffs, I don't know, once every other month. And from a distance, it looked really nice. Like the paint, I don't know what Chrysler does to their paint, but it always looks so nice if the body wouldn't rust out from underneath it. I don't know how they make the paint look so good, but the actual metal so bad. It's just a weird combination. We had found some generic, cheap tires at the local auto salvage yard. These are Armstrong Norseman Treadlock 33 by like 12.5s on a set of generic like 15 by 10 wheels. They were like wagon wheels, not beadlocks or anything fancy. We got a set of 4 for, it was something super cheap, like $150 because one of them was bent. So it's like, one of your wheels is bent. What are you going to do to fix that? You could try to straighten it, this and that. No. We're poor white kids, remember? We got a combination of different washers, from fender washers to this and that. And we made a perfect stack. So once you put the wheel on top of the washers, it rolled perfectly straight. And we ran it like that for quite a while. We ran this thing for a long time. It got abused a lot. And overall, it was a really good time. Having an XJ is something you have to go through in any off-roading environment, because you get a 4-liter, an automatic, and a welded rear diff, and you can get a lot of places. This thing just kept getting more and more beat as we went through it. The actual rear unibody was starting to separate pretty good from the actual body, because I took the hatch off. Obviously, everyone said it's going to fold in half, which now looking back at it, yeah, a lot of them did kind of fold in half when you rolled them, but it's neither here nor there, I ended up actually selling this thing, believe it or not. I think I sold this thing for I had it listed for like $600, had a little Badlands 12,000 on the front. I think it sold for like $450 without the winch, and I sold the winch to someone else for like $200 later. I'm like, I don't know who wanted this or why they wanted it. It ran good. It ran and drove fine, but somebody went on Marketplace and said, yep, that's the one. I need it. So, I don't know. People are weird, you know. Some people buy junk. Some people buy others, you know. Just the way it is. But that made it till, when was that? About October of 2019. So that was about 2 years. I think the main reason it ended up getting sold is the Cliffs, our local park. They got closed, sold to someone who used government grant money or state grant money to reopen it, which turned it into an OHV exclusive park. So the taxes you pay when you buy something go to different pools. To your cars, it's an on-road sales tax. Goes to paying for on-road sales tax stuff. When you buy a side-by-side or an ATV, it goes to the off-road sales tax pool. Since this park was funded by state money, if you paid for the off-road sales tax pool, your thing was allowed there, kind of. So it was a side-by-side ATV, mini bike park, whatever. But it was not allowed for the on-road taxed, you know, trucks, Jeeps, whatever. So basically it excluded half plus the crowd that would go there. That wasn't the nicest park to begin with, but it was something, you know. It was close by, and there was a mix. It was very greasy clay mud, as you can see in the picture here. Like, this is from the Cliffs, and it is just nasty, greasy, soupy mud. It'll pack your tires full. It's all RPM to get anywhere, because it's just going to pack deep, greasy mud in every crevice. So you have to clear your tires out with RPM. So once it closed, it's like, well, all right, that's fair. I guess the Jeep needs sold now, you know. So sold that thing off in, like I said, October of 2019. In that same general time period will come my next purchase. This is I don't actually know the year on this. I think it's like a late 90s. It's an Articat ZR580 EFI, electronically fuel injected. I was sitting at home at my parents' house doing whatever. My dad was up a couple towns over in an auction. He's like, hey, this guy just bought the snowmobile for $100. He's like, I think it just needs the carbs cleaned. He doesn't even really want it that much. Like, are you interested in it? I'm like, what's he want for it? He said he'd take $150. I'm like, well, shit. All right. I'll grab the trailer. I'll head there right now. I'm like, at that price, it's worth doing it. You know, he sent me a picture or two, and I'm like, it's a good looking little sled. Well, when I had looked at the pictures closer, you can't see it in these pictures, I don't think. Oh, maybe you can. Way, way, way back here on the seat, there's a little tag that says EFI. I'm like, oh, the carbs don't need cleaned. It's probably got, you know, an injector that's gummed up or something. So I'm like, well, at $150, that's worth it. I'll go get it, whatever. This was on March 31st of 2018, so the snow season was pretty well over for the year. So it's like, okay, well, we've got it. Can kind of tinker with a little bit till next season. But I'm like, this is nice. This is a great platform to start on. Next winter, once it finally snowed, you know, enough to run this, it was into January at that point. It had a kind of a late start to the winter. So it's early January. It's finally time to run this thing. Made a couple of trips up and down on it. I let my brother take a couple of trips up and down on it. Like, this thing runs good. It makes a lot of power. It's a little bit, I don't want to say heavy, but it's a full-bodied chassis. You know, it's very big and stable. The ZR doesn't have any fancy features. It's kind of a stripped-down-ish model, but it's a 580 twin-cylinder. It ran good until it decided it didn't want to run good anymore and burst into a ball of flames when the main fuel line ruptures and sprays fuel right onto the hot exhaust underneath the hood. So my younger brother was riding it, and he's like, it just burst into flames. Like, I had to jump off the thing and let it roll away because it immediately just burst into flames. Well, he ran up, kind of threw some snow on it, and he's like, it's not stopping, which, looking at it now, it makes sense. The EFI pump was still running until the battery eventually, you know, caught fire or whatever. So that was an unfortunate thing that happened, but it's just the way it goes. Luckily, it was only $150, but there wasn't a whole lot left of it by the time it finished. It pretty well went up in a matter of minutes, and there was nothing salvageable out of it. So that got scrapped, thrown away, you know. It happens, but that would be January 13th, 2019 is when that boiled to the ground. Kind of an interesting little side thing. Articats, apparently they catch on fire. Articats catch on fire, Polarises blow up. However, Yamahas have nothing bad to say about them so far. If Marcus was here, he'd be cheering, but he's not here, so he doesn't get to. Next up on the list of things. This was purchased May 6th of 2018. So again, the dates are getting kind of a little scrambled. This was right in the middle of my Jeep wheeling and this and that. I'm like, I'd like to expand a little bit because I kept having to borrow my dad. Got the little burpees. Have to borrow my dad's truck to take the Jeep places, this and that. So I'm like, I really need my own thing to tow it with. Obviously, the two-wheel drive Ranger's not going to do it. It doesn't make enough power to tow itself around, let alone any weight. So instead of being rational and buying like a single cab F-150 or something, no. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. I bought a school bus. I know. Weird thing to do, but hey. Theoretically, this was a really solid idea. It's a big diesel engine, big transmission, big axles, big tires. Everything on it is beefy. And it had already been kind of shortened and chopped. So this was designed to basically pull a gooseneck around. The proportions look a little weird, but I measured it all and it will fit a standard gooseneck. So I was between either flatbedding this, so I could just pull the Jeep right onto the back of it, kind of ramp truck style. And I'm like, I wonder if that'd work. And I kind of doing measurements, this and that. And this was one of the first times I ever played with a CAD software enough to doodle out an entire project. We actually towed it home on Andy's 6-liter. It was not thrilled about this. This is a big, heavy thing. But anyway, this was one of the first times I actually CAD'ed around. And this was on SketchUp, I think. It was not... I can do much better work now. But for limited SketchUp use of just like, I don't know, I can get all the dimensions close, you know. Traced it up, kind of drew up a little flatbed. I'm like, this is actually pretty doable. So I had kind of a plan going. I'm like, this makes sense, whatever else. And eventually, the more I test drove it and this and that, it would run pretty good, make good power until it got fully warm. Once it got fully up to temperature, it would basically just shut off. If you dumped off the throttle quick, it would turn off and wouldn't restart. So I'm like, okay, there's a heat soak issue. There's something weird. I don't know what it is. At this point, I'm not smart enough in the diesel tech to figure out what it is. This is back in 2018. I'm like 20 years old. I'm like, I'm not going to tear open a semi-engine to figure out what's going on in this thing. Basically kind of hummed around with it for a little bit. Listed it for sale, listed it for trade, just kind of trying to get my money back out of it. It wasn't much. It was like $2,500. It did do sick burnouts. There was a video on the YouTube and the Instagram and stuff of it doing a burnout. It did great burnouts. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun for that, but unfortunately impractical, so it kind of got pushed to the wayside and then ended up getting traded instead of sold. What it ended up getting traded for was much less interesting. However, it was a good platform to trade into solely for the fact of it exists. It's a 2007 Dodge Nitro SLT, I think. It actually looked like a pretty nice little car. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I don't necessarily want this, so I'll probably trade it off to something else. But it was something, you know. So I traded this on September 25th of 2018. Had 196,000 miles. It had four-wheel drive. I think the heater core was clogged or something. It wouldn't blow hot heat, but at the same point, I was planning on trading it anyway. So I never really did much other than drive it up and down the road a couple times, just feel it out. It felt fine. It made good power. I just had no interest in keeping it personally. So I took a couple good pictures in the afternoon glow, a little bit of rain on it. Like, it's a good looking, nice, clean car. I'm like, somebody will want this. Nobody wanted this thing. I listed it for like $4,000 and I tried. And I couldn't find anyone either who would buy it or trade anything for it. And I'm like, I don't see why not. Like, at $4,000, it seems like a pretty good deal. I don't know. Don't know why it wouldn't sell, but it was just the way it was at the time. Ended up wheeling and dealing a little bit and doing some trading. The thing I traded it for is none other than the infamous Sandrail. This thing was a long chunk of my life and a lot of money and a lot of time. This thing was titled as a 2000 custom homemade. This isn't a Beetle with a body kit. This is technically a tube chassis built from scratch, VIN'd as a tube chassis custom homemade. I picked this up on November 10th, 2018, so I'd only had the Nitro for a couple of weeks at this point, maybe a month. Or yeah, September to November, a month and a half, whatever. I traded the Nitro and $1,200 cash for this. This is a 4-seat chassis sandrail on a custom-made T-style trailer. And it was, honestly, for knowing nothing about it, I'm like, this seems like a good deal. It's got some sort of things on it, some sort of stuff on it. I'm like, maybe when I go to meet the guy, he'll know more and can tell me stuff. He didn't know anything. I didn't know anything. We both kind of like, well, it wouldn't run good because it was cold as shit the day we went and looked at it. But I'm like, it sounds healthy. I'm not worried about it, whatever. So I brought this thing home. It was pretty cool. You know, it had the right look. It had the right sound. Had a cool little gauge cluster pod array, you know, switches to start it. Doesn't, the blinkers are up on a switch too. It was just kind of a really interesting little thing. I kind of wanted one. Just, you look at it, you're like, yeah, that'd be kind of a fun thing to have. The middle of winter wasn't like the best time to pick it up. But at the same point, like, you look at it and you're like, this thing's sweet. Everybody looked at it and said, this thing's awesome. The amount of compliments you get everywhere you go, just putting through town, kids would be turning their heads and smiling and waving. Like, that's the fun part, Everywhere you go, there's going to be nothing else like it. Here it is parked at a car show next to Andy's Cobra, which also is sweet and cool and whatever else. But, it's about me today. This thing, knowing nothing about Volkswagens and getting a cobbled together Volkswagen thing, well, not a Volkswagen thing because that is a thing, but some conglomerate of parts that are all vaguely Volkswagen components, makes you learn a lot of stuff really quick, because as soon as something breaks, now you have to figure out what model it is, what type it is, what year it's from, what part it used to be, what part it is now, if it's already upgraded, if it's a factory part. Like, I became a Volkswagen expert over the course of about a year because I'm like, okay, I need to learn a bunch of things about this. So what it was is this was originally a 1600cc air-cooled 4-cylinder out of a Volkswagen bus. Not a Beetle, a bus. Easiest way to tell is the transmissions are different. The buses come in a 3, 5, and 6 rib, and the Beetle transmission is different. One of them has IRS, one of them has some sort of swing arm. It's a whole bunch of stuff that nobody listening cares about, but it's stuff you have to learn because you have to replace these parts. So I kind of started looking into it. I started actually driving the thing around. So it was a 1600cc motor that had been, it had been bored out to 1915 cc's. It went from the factory single barrel, like 32 mil carb, up to a dual 44 mil carb. Had, a couple other little odds and ends, nothing crazy, but it was a good, healthy motor. I still, to this day, don't know what cam was in it. It had to be like a race-style cam because it idled aggressive. Like, it sounded like it was misfiring at idle because it would just sit there and pep, 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 pep. Super cool. Big fan of it. Finally got kind of all the stuff sorted out. Got it in the middle of winter, November 10th, 2018. So once it finally started to get warm out, this is now May of 2019. I'm driving the thing around. I was doing some stuff, some running around. I had to take one of my buddies home. It's just a straight country mile. I was going to come up and around. I got him dropped off, left from there, and a couple minutes later, the tone changed immediately, and I'm like, it just blew up. I'm like, I'm fairly certain something just went horribly wrong. Turns out what had happened is it melted a hole through the head because it was running super lean. And I'm like, no way to tell, no O2 sensors, no EFI, it's just a carburetor. So I'm like, well, it ran fine, but obviously something was wrong. So May 4th, 2019, the motor blows up because, why wouldn't it? So me being me, instead of just putting it back together with a stock head, I'm like, well, the heads are already off. The pistons are already kind of scarred on this side. Let me rebuild the whole motor, basically. So it got new aftermarket jugs. It got custom cast, like, competition heads. They're not a Volkswagen cast that's been poured in and put back together. They're actually its own styled head. A little bit different than factory, but really nothing crazy. But just overall a good-looking part. Pretty much, there's a company called Apple Tree Auto, and they were like my go-to for every single part on this thing because they just had all the stuff you needed pretty much for all the rebuilding, all the purposes, everything. So I used them for pretty much everything on this if I could. I would go there first, find what I wanted. If they didn't have it, then I had to go to like a specialty, CB Performance or something else that would have specific stuff. Like carburetor jets and stuff, I had to go somewhere else. But Apple Tree Auto really killed it on pretty much everything else on the entire rail. So I put it all back together, the same sized parts, just better quality parts. Got it all put back together, drove it around for about another year until I'm like, okay, the factory clutch in this thing is getting a little bit soft. It's like, we should put a clutch in it. I ended up getting a clutch for Christmas for my younger brother. We kind of talked about it beforehand, but didn't know he was going to do that. It was pretty awesome. We took it out, put it all back together, put the new clutch in it, kind of broke it in around the block. It's like, man, this thing runs good. It's like, well, let's try a wheelie. The old clutch, it didn't have quite enough bite. It would pick up about a quarter inch off the ground, just enough where the tire wouldn't spin for a millisecond and then keep going. It's like, let's try a wheelie. The old clutch wouldn't do it. Let's just do the same thing. Well, new clutch had a little bit too much bite and shattered first gear clean out of the transmission. Right in front of the house. Super loud, very embarrassing. Ripped about half the teeth off of the first gear in the inside the transmission. It's like, well, that's not great because now I need to learn how to rebuild these transmissions. Well, it's easier said than done. So we got it kind of torn apart, looked through it. And it's like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, need to order shafts and do this and do that. Couldn't find the right guy to order shafts from for a while. Eventually got a set of shafts and gears because the main shaft has first and second on it. So you have to get the matched first and second gears for it. So it was a whole hassle trying to find all the stuff to put it back together. Eventually got the main shafts, this and that, and took it to a guy to have him rebuild it because I'm like, at a certain point, this isn't my problem. Like, I'm not good enough to rebuild a transmission on this thing yet. I can figure out what transmission it is, but that's about as far as I'm going into it. So took it up to the guy. He took it to his transmission. He was an air-cooled specialist. It's B air-cooled up in like Chicago-ish area. Great guy. Super good to work with. He took it to his transmission builder. Eventually got the transmission rebuilt. It took a lot longer than it should have, but that's neither here nor there. Got it back in like January, so it was still cold. So I'm like, okay, we'll put it back together, kind of run it up and down the road real quick. Seemed okay. Obviously, middle of winter, you're like, one pass, Carhartt's on. Okay, it works. Put it in the shed. We'll wait till spring. Finally got around to it in spring. Once it's okay, warm out. Start driving the thing a little bit, and it starts popping out of third gear, especially with more RPM. So it's like, well, that's not great. Kind of confirm it, do some more tests. If you like hold the lever up, it'd stay pretty good, but sometimes it would still pop out. It's like, all right, this is a freshly built transmission. Shouldn't be that problem. Maybe something's bent or out of alignment. Talk to my guy. He talks to his guy. He's like, yeah, bring it back up. They'll go through it again. So I don't remember if we took it up there one more time on its own. It must have been just bringing it up on the trailer, right? Because we brought the whole sandrail up to the transmission guy. That way he could test it, everything in car, redo it all. He did. He went through it all again, did this and that. He's like, it should be good. There's nowhere in town good enough to test it without driving it way out and way back. So he's like, should be good. Take it home, test it, let me know. Well, took it back, took it home. Still pops out a third. Maybe it was a little bit better. And he's like, there's nothing else I can really do about it. He's like, I've done everything I know how to do. He's like, at this point, like, you can have your money back. Like, I feel bad making you drive back and forth. So I ended up paying for it and then getting my money back for it, which, I wasn't thrilled that it kept popping out of gear, but at the same point, that's just kind of what had happened. So, ran it like that for a little bit, would just stay mostly out of third because it was a 4-speed. You could go second to fourth, or you could go up into third, rev it about halfway up and get to fourth before it popped out. You could make it work around it. Drove it like that for a while, and if I was really running third hard, I'd just hold the shifter up and it'd be okay. But ran the thing for about another year like that. Ended up selling it in September of 2022 for about $5,000, which, if you add up all the receipts and parts and stuff, I probably lost my ass on it. But since I was very good at taking notes and keeping track, I had a list of all the things I'd bought. That way, the next owner, I could be like, here's every piece of information you will need to know. If anything breaks, don't come to me. Here's everything I bought, when I bought it, where I bought it from, the part number I ordered. I mean, I did my research and gave this guy everything I'd learned. So there's a big old list of parts of basically everything I'd done, everything I'd learned. And it's like, more people need to do this when they sell stuff because, man, I'm sure I made this guy's life way easier. The guy I sold it to, he finally got around to selling it a year or so later. He's like, I asked him, like, anything ever break on it or how'd it do? He's like, oh, no, it's been perfectly fine. So, of course, I'm like, well, fuck, I fixed all the things and now it works fine, you know? But that's whatever. And then the guy he sold it to asked me about this parts list. I sent it to him too. You know, everybody's on track. I haven't heard anything from that guy. So either it's working good or he already sold it too. I don't know. Don't know where it's at anymore, but it was part of my life for a little bit. So I ended up just selling that out for cash. Just like time. It's basically, I don't want to say it was cursed, but I had it for 4 years. And in that 4 years, I'd probably driven it 20 times that I was actually happy with driving it, where it's like, okay, this was a good day. It ran good. Nothing broke, you know. There were plenty of times it'd be like, okay, is today the day that this thing, you know, the axles had problems and the shocks had problems and the springs had problems and the steering box had like everything on it had a problem at some point. So I'd gone through and fixed all the things. I was just finally so tired of fixing it. I happened to have fixed all the things before I sold it, but I just couldn't trust it anymore, essentially, if that makes sense, you know. I'd gotten all the fun out of it I'd had. Like, my favorite trip in it, I can still remember it to this day, which sounds like it was a long time ago. It wasn't, but we were doing something over at Marcus's dad's house. So I brought like my computer over there to update some stuff while we were hanging out. I brought the rail and this and that. And he's like, hey, let's go swimming over in the river, you know, not like the river, because that shit's nasty, but over in one of the offshoots, like I think the Vermilion at that point. I'm like, yeah, sure, we'll take the rail, whatever. So we put on our swim trunks and stuff and started driving, and well, about a block outside of town, it started raining. It's like, well, shit, like we're going to get wet because obviously there's no panels, there's no door. There's technically a roof. It just doesn't do a whole lot when it's, you know, it's barely wider than your guys' heads. So the tires are throwing water, this and that. So at that point, it's like we pulled into the Casey's, kind of like gathered our thoughts. It's like, well, we're already soaking wet head to toe. I guess what's the difference? It's warm out. Let's just keep going. He's like, yeah, fuck it. Why not? So we drove it around in the rain for a little bit on the big old wide, like 33 by 19.5 inch wide rear tires. It would float around sideways. It felt fun. We drove over to the bar, had a drink while we killed some time with the rain stop. Went over to the river, swam around for a couple hours. It was just a good day, you know. So I ended up selling that September of 22. You know, we'd had our fun out of it, but man, a lot of it just beat me down. A lot of it was not as fun as it should have been, I guess, is the way I look at it. Glad the guy I sold it to has it fixed and it's all good to go, but I was tired of fixing it. In the midst of that, I had purchased another thing. So in 2019, I basically turned 21. I'd been doing, you know, I'm pretty frugal, so I kind of treated myself and bought me a brand new 2019 Ford Ranger. I bought this thing brand new. They had it shipped in. It had like 9 miles on it or 7 miles on it. Technically, when I paid for it, they brought it in. It's a fully loaded Lariat. It's a 2.3 turbo, 10-speed, 4-wheel drive. It was everything I wanted. It's black. Originally, when I went to spec it, I didn't really want the chrome package. So I didn't want the chrome bumpers, chrome mirrors, chrome wheels. But seeing it all put together, I'm like, you know, they already had one at one of the other dealerships they could do trades with, whatever, that had the chrome on it. I'm like, actually, it doesn't look that bad. I was going to get the bumpers black, you know, just kind of black the whole thing out. And now looking back at it, I'm glad I didn't and got the chrome package instead because it makes a little bit of accent pop on it, whatever. It had side steps. It had chrome wheels. It was a good overall truck. Bought this in July 26th of 2019. Immediately, I'm like, this is my daily driver. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people who gets a truck and then parks it in the garage most of the year. I'm like, I need a truck. I need something good. It can tow. Like, it's rated to tow 7,500 pounds. Didn't have a brake controller because they didn't have a factory brake controller yet. It's kind of a weird, you know, it has active emergency braking where if a car stops in front of you, it can pull brakes, but it couldn't send that to the trailer. was a weird kind of combination of things. So it took like a year for them to make a good qualified brake controller for it, which eventually I got, but didn't really need it for most of what I was doing. But was just kind of a nice, good, clean truck. Looked really nice, shined up really nice. I'm not one to clean cars and trucks per se. Like a touchless wash was plenty for it. It gets detailed like every other year or something. It was just kind of a nice, clean truck. Got to stance it up with all the other Rangers we owned at the time. There's my 94 in the back, my brother's 99 that we put a 5-liter V8 out of a Mountaineer in. That was a cool project. And then my new 2019 side steps came off immediately. I thought they looked bad. The chrome bar running down the side just wasn't for me. I don't know if you could see it in the first. Yeah. They hugged the bottom of the door by like an inch. They were basically pointless. I'm like, everyone who buys these trucks is like retired age. I don't know why. They're either my age or retired, nothing in between. So everyone needs side steps for them. They need to be very comfy and luxurious. Well, I don't need the side steps on a stock height truck. It's fine. But got to take cool pictures with all the other Rangers. Kind of a fun little bit. And then in August of 2020, I'd had it for about a year now. I'm like, okay, it's time to spice this thing up a little bit. We did a custom Eibach lift on it. It's a 3.5-inch lift in the front and a 1-inch block in the rear. Shocks on all 4 corners, springs in the front. Like, it was a nice kit. Kind of made the truck sit right, look right. And then to go with that, got a set of KMC Impact wheels wrapped in 33-inch Falcon Wild Peaks. And I could not be happier the way this came out. Everything on it looks right. It fits right. It makes such a good-looking package by the time it was said and done. Like, even today, I look at this truck. This, obviously, the tires are bald in this picture, but, you know. Even today, when I see it parked somewhere, I look at it and I go, damn. Every time I look at it. The wheels are a nice, like, satin machined gray with a black outer hoop, kind of like a beadlock style, because it's a KMC. They make good beadlocks. 5% tint on the side windows, 35% on the windshield. LED headlights. Like, it's a nice, really good truck. It's got all the features you want, none of the extra nonsense you don't. I still have this today. I still daily drive it most of the time if the weather's not nice. It's got about 78,000 miles on it now after, 6 years? Yeah, just over 6 years. Super nice truck. Could not be happier with it. It's been a lot of fun. It gets fine mileage. I mean, it's a 2.3 turbo with a 10-speed. It gets anywhere from 16 to 25, depending on what you're doing. It's just such a wide range. I've gotten 25, driving it really nice and careful and slow. And yeah, it's day-to-day is closer to 18, 19, but I don't drive a whole lot. It's fine. If I need to drive a lot, I'd have a little tiny economy car, but I don't. You know, my drive to work is about 100 feet, so I don't really drive it too much unless I'm going somewhere or doing some things. Let's get to the next ones. Oof. This is going well, I believe. You guys tell me in the comments if it's going well for you guys or if you've already tuned out by now, you know? The next one is, again, in between all this because the times are all getting overlapped now. The next thing that I purchased and owned was a 2000 Hyundai Accent wagon. If you know about this car already, good for you. If you don't, I'll give you a quick backstory. So, bought this car in May of 2021 when me, Andy, Marcus, and my younger brother Michael flew out to Washington State to buy cars and run what's called the Backcountry Discovery Route, which is a set of trails, off-roads, over hills, whatever else, to kind of give a sightseeing tour to the backcountry while also being kind of hard to do. A lot of guys do it on adventure bikes, whatever else. We did it in cars because we're silly. They both bought Subarus, which was the correct choice for this trip. Me being different, I'm like, I had a couple of different things lined up. They all fell through. I ended up buying this car for not that much money. I think like $1,200. It's either a 1.8 or a 2-liter. I don't know which. 4-cylinder, automatic. Has horrible kind of purpley, shitty tint. You can see it through the top window. But it has a subwoofer in it. So I'm like, you know what? For a road trip, I'm like, this will be pretty cool. So we bought this May 30th. It was whatever holiday is that weekend. Memorial Day, I think, is the end of May. So we flew into town, bought a bunch of camping stuff, which was hard to do because it was Memorial Day weekend and it was nice out. So all the stores are out of stock of tents and this and that, but We're here to talk about the cars. This trip was a really fun, awesome trip. Would gladly do it again in a heartbeat. So I bought this car for $1,200 or whatever. Front wheel drive, not all wheel drive like theirs. It was a good car, doing off-road trails, camping, doing whatever else. Like, it was a really great time. Get to the next picture. And then on one of the trails, I was struggling getting up it because my car's front wheel drive. So I'd already stopped climbing the hill because I couldn't make it. It spun out. And then Andy comes up behind me at about 10 miles an hour and smokes the rear hatch of this thing, which then stops it from opening anymore. Completely crumples the hinge inside. So it's like, well, that was kind of dumb. You know, I'd already stopped. He's like, it looked like you were still kind of moving. So he just kind of bumped me at speed, collapsing the whole entire trunk hatch in, but didn't break the glass out. Got from the inside, kind of popped it loose, broke the latch out of it, and used a ratchet strap the rest of the time. Was honestly a good solution. It worked fine. And then the disaster struck. So apparently it's really common in these cars for the O2 sensor wiring to fall out of its little area that it should be in and lay right on top of the exhaust and just melt. The problem is when these wires melt out, these wires ground out and send power through, melting more wires, burning up fuses, this and that. Well, we were on top of a mountain when it popped the fuse the first time. So it's like, okay, we need to get off the mountain before we can even start to look at it. So put another fuse in it. That got it a little bit further off the mountain, which also burnt more wiring. Kind of a cascading effect. Until we got finally off the mountain, stopped at an O'Reilly's the next morning to try to diagnose maybe. At this point, we didn't know that was the problem. So maybe the alternator is putting out bad current, maybe this, maybe that. Something keeps popping the ECU fuse, which then turns off the car. So we look and check and look and check, and finally, we get the alternator tested. It's fine. Check a couple other things. They're all fine. It's well, I guess we'll worry about it the next day or whatever. We get it towed back to a campground where then this happens. We're like, okay, it popped more fuses and gets worse. So finally, okay, we have to gut the entire car, redo the wiring harness, find where it's burnt. We'd fixed a couple of wires at the O'Reilly's we stopped at. Didn't solve the problem. So took it back to a campground, and we spent a whole day and a half gutting this car. Every wire, every connector, checking everything, pulling it all back out into the engine bay, combing through all the wires, finding burnt ones, replacing them, rewrapping them. This was a big, long day and a half project of checking literally everything on the car. Finally, the next morning, because we spent all night doing it, got it all put back together. Marcus found the last one wire it needed to actually fire. We'd be cranking it and testing it and this and that. Car runs. We're all excited. At some point in the process, neither Marcus nor Andy will take blame for it, but one of the two broke my air conditioning, taking the dash out. It probably could have gotten wired back together, but we were already kind of running behind, so we had time to make up whatever. So we just decided, okay, we'll just get moving and worry about it later. Once the windows are open and we're moving, it won't be so bad. Boy, was it hot. It was 96 degrees on the drive home. No air conditioning, and the exhaust is kind of breaking up by the radiator, so it's dumping hot air in front of you. It was a hot ride home. It was not a lot of fun, but really wasn't much we could do about it. So we kind of band-aided it the whole way home, finished the actual trip itself, took this iconic picture. All the cars kind of lit up, back low of the mountain. Super fun. Super awesome trip. Car made it all the way home. Probably wasn't going to make it much longer. Sold it to the same kid I'd sold the Crown Vic to derby it. He messed up and burnt all the wiring in it again. Unrelated issue. They, rewired the car, put the starter on a switch. Well, it wasn't a momentary, so you could flip the switch on and it would stay once the car started. Backfed a bunch of power through all the sensors, burnt them all out, and that's where that thing met its demise. But it made the whole trip. After they melted all the wiring out of it, we dissected the engine, looked at the bearings and stuff to see how rough it really was. It wouldn't have made it much longer throughout life. I mean, it had seen a lot of things, had done a lot of things. This next one is one that any listeners of the show will be somewhat familiar with, but can get the whole general story as we run through it real quick. Gonna be a lot of pictures, but should make for a good story. The next purchase was on October 6th of 2022. This is the 1994 F350 known as Old Milwaukee. This truck was purchased out of Milwaukee for $1,300. The guy had it listed for a couple grand or something. I saved it just as like a, hey, you know, I've wheeled an XJ and it was okay, whatever, but I'd like, and like, why doesn't anyone just build a full-size truck? It's already got 1-ton axles. It's already got a V8, already got big, heavy transmission stuff. And this one popped up. I'm like, well, if I was going to buy one, it'd be this one. And then the price dropped. And he's like, I need it gone today. And I'm like, well, I might as well just do it. You know, I've got the money left over from the sandrail, I think, at this time. So I'm like, well, shit, I probably should. Like, if I'm ever going to do it, there's no better time than now. It's got like 130,000 miles. It's just rusty because it was a plow truck up in Wisconsin. So we'll just click through all the pictures and I'll kind of explain where we're at. So the truck itself, kind of just a rusty whatever truck. All the fenders are rotted. The frame or the body is rotted, but the frame is relatively solid. I mean, it's dirty. There's some speckles on it, but honestly, it's fine. The floor pans are gone. I'm assuming from being a plow truck, getting in and out, salt on it just slowly rots the thing. The front tire's kicking up. So we decided to, 1, fix the patches, fix the floors up, whatever else, and 2, it was too long. 134-inch wheelbase is too much for something this wide. So basically, we decided to cut it down. I ended up deciding on a 108-inch wheelbase, which is the same length as a Bronco from the same era, which makes it a pretty small wheelbase for something this big. A lot of people are like, wow, you made it that small. I'm like, well, I want it to be somewhat maneuverable. Well, turns out it still isn't, but that's, you know, unrelated. So we cut the frame off just behind the cab, enough where we could put a front spring hanger on the original frame and then have the rear spring hanger up on the new frame that we bent and made out of 3/16 plate. It's really trick the way this all came together. You know, I drew this all up just in CAD just to figure it out. This middle adapter piece that runs up actually transitions from a 7-inch frame rail down to a 6-inch frame rail. I don't remember why I exactly decided to do it like that, but I figured a 6-inch rail would be much easier to work with and whatever else. Once we got that all together, custom built a bumper for it, built a fuel tank skid so I could mount the factory style fuel tank in the back of it to give it, I don't have to do custom fuel pump or fuel wiring or fuel tank or whatever else. I can use the factory tank strapped down nice and secure in the frame where it should be. That way it's protected, sides, top, bottom, whatever. Rear bumper's all in, got LED lights in it, bolted in place on 4 sides, or with 4 bolts on each side, big heavy duty 1/2-inch bolts. It has a hitch receiver welded right into the center of it. That's my main tow point off the back of it. If I rip that out, then something else has gone horribly wrong. That all went together good. Picked up a set of used tires off Marketplace. Here's them stanced up next to the factory tires on this truck. These are the same tires I have today. They're 39.5-inch tall, 16.5-inch wide on 16-inch rims, pit bull rockers, which are infamous for running a little bit small, but most people say they work pretty good. They were local to me. It was a set of 5 on beadlocks for $800. And I'm like, well, they're the right bolt pattern. I'm never going to find a better deal this close, this easy. I'm already kind of crunching on time because I bought this in October and I'm planning on running this at the hangover run at Badlands in January 1st. So every day, I'm currently working 60-hour weeks during this. So I'd work my full day's shift, my 10 hours, get off work, come back here, work till midnight or later, do it all again the next day, over and over and over, and just continuously putting hours down. So every day that I could save doing something else was always worth it. So this was about November 27th at this point. By the time the back of the frame was done, the tires are on, the fuel tanks and stuff is in. So it's just day by day making progress. Custom made a shock mount that goes on the front side of the axle because the clearance on the back side was pretty cozy because the fuel tank's sitting there. So I stole this design from some Toyota guys just to kind of make an adjustable-ish mount in case I need to go wider or narrower. These are actually F-150, like 2015 generation rear shocks. They've got like 12 inches of travel. They should be valved appropriately heavy, so I used those. They were off of my brother's white F-150. Got those thrown in with a custom mount top and bottom. They seem to work pretty good, all things considered. a bunch more wiring, a bunch more hours and hours and hours until this is like December 30th at this point, where we take it into the booth, spray it, well, not spray it, brush it on a can of just generic black matte paint. I'm like, anything we put on it now will help save it so it doesn't immediately rust. It's still the same paint that's on it today. Probably could have done a better job, but we were tired of working this. We painted this at like 2:30 in the morning of December 31st, technically at that point. Planning on taking it out, or this was December 30th, the morning of. Planning on taking it the 31st to go wheeling. So it's like every single minute has been used up. Got the floors all patched up. You could see how gone they were in the earlier pictures. Big patch panel, full side rail, and some custom plates to fit it in. Because there's nothing worse than being inside of a car getting wet from the floor. So it's patched up super duper nice. Not a leak, nothing weird. The seatbelt had to get remounted on the driver's side because it was so rotted out. But it all came together really nice. Took it to Badlands, had a good-ish time with it. Steering was bad, but whatever. Now we're up into next year's May at this point. Got the exhaust system finished up because it didn't get behind the cab other than where this muffler is. So threw on some stainless piping to get it out the back, get it actually mounted properly the rest of the way. Got that finished up. Went wheeling with Trevor in Missouri. That was our first episode, I believe, in that general time span. Yes, it would have been. So that'd be the first episode of the podcast. From here on out, you should be up to date with all the things that have happened. This is me setting up to do hydro assist, electric fan, a bunch of other little stuff. Custom aluminum shroud that we mounted a Volvo, I think 840 or 940 electric fan. The reason we went with this fan in particular is it is the same motor and fan shroud, or same motor and fan blade assembly as the infamous Taurus fan. The Taurus fan off the Ford Taurus, as the name implies, is a big, super powerful motor for a single blade, or for a single motored fan. It's a really nice motor. Everyone likes it. The Volvo uses that same motor in a mountable shroud. It's got basically a ring that wraps around it nicely, where the Taurus fan is in its own shroud. So not the aluminum shroud that we're putting it in. It has its own kind of mounting shroud. The Volvo fan is easier to mount, but it's pretty much the same connectors, same controls. Got that all set up off of a thermostat controller, so it's automatic. I don't have to think about it, do it myself. At the same time, we're doing hydro assist on the truck, so I have to build my own tie rods in order to make the hydro assist mounts fit. Obviously, I'm going to be extra and TIG weld them because they're nice, clean steel. It's a nice, easy weld, not a bunch of splatter. Turned out really cool because obviously, billet steel mounts and tubes. It's always fun to get to show off stuff like that when I do get to do it. Did these on like my lunch break one day just because. Then going to actually mounting the Ram on the truck came the big problem of the engine cradle hangs down pretty low and about right where I'd want the Ram to go. As the axle moves upward, it might get close to it, so we kind of looked at it and decided and thought about it and said, well, what if we just cut this cradle off right here where it flattens out? Basically kind of thought it through a little bit and said, should be fine. There's a bunch more support on the back. We'll brace it with a new piece up a little bit higher. That way it's not flimsy here. Sliced it off. You could see it here. Cut it off pretty close to that line. Got my new plate steel diff cover put into place. And then threw the Ram in place along with a new brace to support this cradle. It's a piece of like 2x3 angle, cut, notched, welded in there very nicely. Super strong, not worried about it cracking or anything weird. Got the Ram mounted to the diff. Again, pushing it last minute to get it ready for hangover run. Got it mounted up to the diff, got everything hooked back together. Took it to hangover run. It steered great. It worked great. Super happy with it. Brings us to the next year. This is now 2025. No, this is 2024. My bad, trying to keep all the dates straight. So 2024, I didn't love the way the truck looked without a bed on it. It looks super stubby and weird. So I had the original Ford bed for it. The problem is obviously it's way too short now. As you can see from this picture, the fender is 20 inches inside the cab. So I did a bunch of math, a bunch of drawing, got it kind of mounted up, cut it to size, made it fit the truck, and now it actually looks like a truck again. filled in the bed sides. They're just floating there kind of for only aesthetics, but it ties the look together so much better. The problem is when you look at it from any sort of angle from the front-ish, you would see the giant cab and there's a tire floating behind it. It wouldn't look connected nicely. So once we put the bed sides on there, now it fills it out. It makes it look like a real truck again. This is in August of 24. Shortly thereafter, I know my wheels are nasty, dirty, old wheels. They need cleaned. They need resealed. Half of them leak. So I take the wheels off the truck, take them inside, break all the beads down, get everything cleaned up. You could see the wheels have a ton of pitting in the steel, which obviously underneath paint, it's just going to keep rusting. So I took them out, blasted them all nice and clean. That way I could actually get in to these pits, get them clean, and then throw self-etching primer in it to help dig into the metal. That's what this greenish kind of tannish coating is. Self-etching primer, so it'll eat into the steel to make a good layer. Painted them black afterwards. Got them all put back together. Left the outer beadlock rings bare aluminum. They look really nice like that. Before, they were painted kind of an orangish red that matched the truck fairly close. But I liked the bare aluminum look, and it was less work. So I just left them like that. This is in late October. This brings us to early November, December area, where I'm like, okay, the brakes, like I fixed the steering problems. Let's get to the brakes, because the brakes were also bad. So in the list of things done, we put disc brakes on the rear of the truck to help it actually stop a little bit better, because drums are kind of big and clunky. I like discs better. While doing that, we'll switch to a Hydro Boost brake system, which if you listen to the show constantly, you'll hear me talk about over and over and over again, because it has been the bane of my existence for the last year at this point. But Hydro Boost brakes on it, clocked the transfer case. It used to sit below the frame rail about 3 or 4 inches down here. Put an adapter ring on it so we could twist it up about 15 degrees to get it perfectly level. That way it doesn't hang underneath the truck. It can't get hit off stuff as easily. Was a pretty good, simple thing to do. Once we got all that put together, got the brakes all bled, everything worked good-ish. Got some rock sliders put underneath the doors. These are XJ weld-in sliders from some company I don't remember the name of right now. But they're made to fit an XJ. They happen to work perfectly where I wanted them on the truck. Tucked them up into the door seam nice and tight. At the same point, I also got my winch mounted up on the front bumper. It's a 12,000-pound Apex winch. I had to cut, there was a big snowplow mount off the front of this, kind of. I'd already cut a lot of it off. I cut the rest of it off to make room for this. Had to weld some square tube. This is a 3-inch tube welded vertically to the end of the frame to kind of cap it and give it somewhere for the winch plate to sit and weld to. It came out really nice, kind of fits really good. It's packaged up high. It just barely touches the grill on the front of the truck, but overall makes kind of a nice, clean package for the truck. Took it like that to hangover run, which seems to be kind of my general, like, thrash on it last minute, take it to hangover run. Kind of a generic path back and forth. For this year's hangover run, my Hydro Boost brakes were fine, but the power steering was not. My theory was by the time it went through the Hydro Boost, it was restricting it too much. Turns out that wasn't the case, and it's been a bad pump the whole time, but didn't know that. So in the meantime, I had modded the pump, doing the West Texas mod to make some more pressure out of it. Put a smaller pulley on it, help it spin faster. Put bigger feed lines, better reservoir, better cooler. All that stuff didn't help until I actually ended up pressure testing it and swapping the pump, which I did here very recently. In between all that, I'd put some BDS leaf springs on the rear of it because my leafs were all bent up and messed up. They're way better leafs than what I had. Seemed to help quite a bit with the problems I was having in the rear of it binding and flexing weird and overall just bending the rear leaves out of the way. So that's where it sits up until now. Hangover run is in like 3 days from now. So hopefully soon I'll get to test all my hard work and see if it's actually fixed or not. Bringing me up to the trailer. So this is my trailer. This picture is actually it before I purchased it. This trailer is a 2019 Retig, I believe is the technical term. It's 8.5 foot wide to the frame rails and 16 foot long with drive over fenders. It is in theory, it's a PJ B5 buggy hauler, but it is not because it was built as a tiny house originally. So this layer of rubble across the road is a tiny house, just insulation walls, whatever. I believe the story is the truck towing it blew a tire and caused it to fishtail, which then ripped all the stuff off of it. Obviously, at that point, it's basically a total loss to whoever owned it. I don't know if insurance covered it or whatever, but a guy I know down there had a wrecker yard. He towed it in. He was going to keep it to build an off-road trailer out of, but instead, he decided not to, so I decided to pick it up for, I think, $1,200. He's like, it's a good frame and body. Like, it's great for this project. It just needs a lot of work. Well, I'm more than happy to do all the work for it. I just don't want to buy a big, expensive, brand new PJ. So $1,200, it needed an axle and just work. So I'm like, that's perfect. I can do all those things. Drug it home, kind of looked over the whole thing. The tongue has a little bit of a bend in it right underneath this chain. It's hard to see in the pictures. It's really not that drastic because I still haven't fixed it and I tow it all the time. It was covered in this thin, 20 gauge-ish sheet metal. So I ripped all that off, knocked all the spray film off, measured the whole thing front to back, side to side. I actually made a 3D CAD model of the trailer in its entirety. That way I could look at it on my computer and decide if I needed to move anything, change anything. Turns out it was all fine and it was kind of a fun project to draw. But it's all tubing. The frame of the trailer is 2x6 tubing, not 2x6 channel. So it's actually a sealed tube, which is, I don't know if it's perfect, but it is kind of nice. It's a lightweight trailer for its capacity. It's got 10,000 pounds worth of axles underneath it. 10,400 or something technically. Put a new axle on it. Rewired the entire trailer front to back really nicely. All the wires are individually ran to the lights. They're not daisy chained together or clipped badly or poorly. Like, there's nothing worse than trailer wiring when it doesn't work. Because the truck will pop up, trailer connected, trailer disconnected, trailer connected the whole way down the road. And it's like, when you go to panic stop, are your brakes going to work or is it currently disconnected because there's a bad wire? So I did everything really nice, wired up as best as I possibly could. Then I started to throw a steel diamond plate deck on it. This is 11 gauge diamond plate steel, which is the same thickness that PJ, because I basically base it off of PJ essentially. It's the same thickness that PJ uses on theirs on this width of crossmember spacing. So I just copied basically a known formula, cut it to fit around the fenders. Everything fits really nicely. Nothing too awful crazy. Got it bedlinered, painted, got a front little roll bar kind of attachment hoop thrown on there. Toolbox that fits it nicely, and honestly, it came out really, really good. It's a super low, super light trailer. Everything about it I really like. If I had to do it again, I'd do it exactly the same. Had to build some ramps for it because it didn't have any, and there's no like slider rail across the back. So I started with some Amazon formed punched steel ramps. These are technically made to load up into a truck bed, so the angle on the end was way too much. And they were made to sit either on a rail or get strapped or something. My trailer's got none of that. It's just a square end on it. So I had to unbend the end a little bit to kind of make it match the angle that I was using better. And then I put holes in it so I could basically line the ramp up and set pins through it so it wouldn't slide around off the deck, or when you're pulling up on it, you can't kick them out from underneath of you. Because I didn't want to weld a big rail to the back of it because there's no good spot for it. Then the license plate will have no spot, and then this and then that. And it was kind of a big hole, it was a lot of staring at it going, how is this going to work? And eventually it's basically pinned through the top. So they're just push pins with like a detent ball in them. So all you do is just line them up, snap them through. They're super secure. I've never had one come loose. When you're done, just pick the ramp up, break the detent loose. Bada bing, bada boom. Super nice little build. Again, couldn't be happier with it. I use it to tow my cars, my trucks. It's low enough because they're drop axles. So instead of being a straight across axle, they actually have 4 inches of drop built into them. Basically, it basically lowers the entire trailer deck 4 inches. Super convenient for loading low cars and stuff. Obviously, it's not a low car hauler specifically, but it is really good at doing it, compared to a regular trailer. And it has the ability of not scraping everywhere like a dovetailed regular trailer does. Little benefit for me, but at the same point, it has roller wheels on the back, so even if it does touch the ground, it's not just going to drag and scrape. It'll just keep rolling nice and easy. I don't think I've even touched them on the ground to this day, but you know, they're still there just as some peace of mind at the very least. Next up in my list of things that I have purchased and or bought is my 2008 Honda Fit Sport. This is a 1.5 liter manual in a color that it's some sort of purple. It's like dark blueberry or some goofy name. It's purple. It's just, that's all it is to it. It's some sort of purple. I don't know what to call it, but this car is very similar to the Washington trip. There's another backcountry discovery route up in Maine, so we did the same thing. We flew out there and met Andy, who drove up with all our camping supplies in the same Subaru he had bought last time. And we did the same thing. We did a bunch of miles off-road, did a couple of cool events while we were out there. I think I bought this car for like $2,200. I'm like, sweet, whatever. Very shortly into the trip, the exhaust decided to completely fall off of the car, which then required emergency late-night surgery around the campfire to fix the crimped-off connections from rocks smashing into it. Along with an early morning at Dunkin' Donuts, like, strap some stuff together to hope it stays together throughout the rest of the trip. Not my finest work, but with what I had available on site, it held the entire way home. The next day after this, we went and climbed Mount Washington. Here's a picture of kind of up on the mountain. Beautiful scenery. You climb 4,000 feet in 7.6 miles of road. It is not impossible. It's a nice paved road, but you gain altitude quick. By the time we were done, we were up in the fog layer. You could barely see. I'm like, wow, it was a perfect day for it. It was kind of misty, humid, whatever you want to call it. Like, nice, cool day, some rain, some whatever. The scenery was unmatched that day. Did the rest of the trip, got to the way home. This is it after all the trip. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. It's got some beat, the front bumper's been ripped off of it a couple times. There's a lot of weird kind of stuff with it at this point, but it made it all the way home. You really see that purple color shine in the shop lights. It is a nice color, all things considered. Once we got it home, I'm like, okay. Got it home. This was September 15th of 2023 is when I bought the car, did the trip. Got back later September. It was 10 days later or something like that. Once we get back, I'm like, okay, first things first, got to go register the car so I can start driving it, because on the trip, I was getting 40 plus miles to the gallon in this car. I mean, it's a little economy 1.5 liter. I'm like, it gets good mileage. I think the best I got was like 49 or something. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this would be great for driving up to Minnesota to visit with my friends, whatever else. Well, go to the DMV with my title, and they're like, hey, this title's bad. I'm like, what do you mean it's bad? And they're like, well, the front of the title's where, all the normal information is. The back of the title has basically slots in it. So if you're a dealer and somebody else wants to wheel and deal and trade with you, you can trade it from dealer to dealer to dealer using these reallocation slots on the back of the title. Well, somebody got it from the dealer. Instead of going and getting the title registered, they sold it to the next guy using these slots, and he sold it to the next guy, and he sold it to the next guy. So there's like 3 layers of basically, I don't want to call it fraud, but that's essentially what it is it's the state didn't get their taxes for it for these transfers. Therefore, the title is now invalid. So in order to chase one down, what I'd have to do is go to the original owners on the title, which was from like 100,000 miles ago. I mean, the car's in 08, so probably 2010. Go find them, have them file for a lost title, have their bank send a letter saying that it's paid off, this and that. I'm like, it's not worth it for a car that's from Vermont across the country. So I just stuffed it outside. I'm like, I'll worry about it later, whatever. Maybe there's something that'll pop up I can do with it. Maybe there's not, So I kind of hee-hawed around, looked at stuff. This was during the early days of the pod, about episode 40-ish. And somehow, some way, I stumbled upon Rallycross. I don't remember how I found it. I want to say I knew that there were Hoopty X events up at Byron. I'd looked at that, and I'd seen Rallycross was also hosted there. I'm like, oh, that's got Rally in the name. That should be fun. And kind of looked at it. I'm like, yeah, this should be something I could do. So I kind of looked into it a little bit more and talked to the guys about it. And they're like, yeah, I don't see why not. Well, I've got a paint booth here at work and nothing more pressing to do. I'm like, you know what? I should paint the car some kind of cool color scheme. It's a rally car. It'd be fun. So I did a bunch of looking. We made some AI generated designs back in the day, early AI, just to see kind of what, if something cool popped up. Well, had a couple ideas, this and that. Eventually I found this design on Forza Horizon, the car video game. This is a Repsol themed, technically this car is a Fiesta ST, where my car is a Honda Fit, but they're both 4-door hatchback small cars. Repsol sponsors Honda's bike racing division. They have for like 30 years or something. So I'm like, this is actually awesome because it is a brand that already works with Honda. The Honda street bikes have this paint scheme on them. I'm like, that'd be a cool little homage. I like the idea that it's a real styled livery on my own car, and it's a simple enough design I can copy it pretty easily. So I went and bought me a cheap little projector, pointed it up at the car in the dark shop, and you can actually see the colors kind of portrayed onto the car and how well it lines up. These are just screenshots from the game. I literally blew onto the side of it. Basically lined the wheels up, lined the windows up, kind of got it skewed right. Did some tape work, did some line work, kind of solved where everything was going. Put it in the paint booth and just started working away at it. First coat of white went down super nice. Did another coat of white, ran the hell out of the paint, was mad about that. Threw down some orange, some grays, some reds, did all the different colors until finally it came out nice and fully painted. There's some runs, there's some stuff that looks a little weird, but for my first time full painting a car, essentially, could not be happier. The things I learned from it, obviously I can do better next time when I go to do it again, but it turned out really good. I like the way it looks. It's nice and bright and it pops, And that's what I wanted. Something that looks cool, makes a good impression. And I have beat the snot out of this car for the past 2 years. And overall, it's been super happy taking the abuse. First year in, I lose like the first race and then win a bunch more to make up. I get first place in the points for our division for stock front wheel drive. I'm like, or region technically. Win stock front wheel drive champion for the year. I'm like, this is awesome. Do it again next year. Go to fire up the car for next year. And the clutch goes straight to the floor because the mice in the yard decided to eat through the clutch hose and all the important sensors in the car. They ate through like all the transmission shift sensor, which is a manual, so it's not that big a deal for that, but ate through the O2 sensor, the map sensor, pretty much all the important sensors that make the car run good. So immediately I'm like, well, shit, I have to tear this thing apart, fixed all the sensors on it, and then I'm like, well, my air box also fills full of dirt and debris because it pulls cool air from the front tire. The problem is on dirt, it's throwing dirt up there. So I made a custom little pre-filter adapter, which is allowed in the rules. This is a strainer for a water trash pump. It's a 2-inch NPT fitting that I then cut a 2-inch pipe nipple off and JB welded to the side of the air box. It looks ghetto, but it has held up amazing for the last year that it's been on there, all things considered. And I've won my second year of stock front wheel drive rallycross in it, which I think is a cool little accomplishment for just a little underpowered Honda. I mean, come on, the car makes like 100 horsepower. So that is the Honda Fit. Still doesn't have a title, but doesn't matter. The problem is, since it doesn't have a title, I can't street drive it. And once I had it and I kind of enjoyed driving it, I'm like, man, it'd be nice to be able to drive this car on the street because it gets great gas mileage. So I had started doing a bunch of looking, and I'm like, well, I could buy another Honda Fit. They're kind of expensive, but they get good mileage. I see why they're worth it. Then I'm like, well, there's no good ones around here. What if I bought a Fiesta? And I'm like, well, if I'm going to buy a Fiesta, I don't want to buy a base model because the dual clutch transmission in them is kind of iffy, and you get a good one or a bad one or this and that. I'm like, I don't want that. If I'm going to do that, I'll buy an ST, but those are expensive. So maybe I buy a broken ST and fix it, or, kind of stuck between a whole bunch of stuff. And I've been kind of looking at stuff for like a month. And one of the guys in the local rallycross group posts his car for sale. He's like, hey, thinking about selling this car with a blown engine. Does anyone want it? I'm like, that would be me. I've been literally looking for this car in this condition for quite a while, and it's a good, cheap deal. This car is a 2016 Fiesta ST in black. Turbo 1.6, manual, black with kind of an interesting graphics scheme across the back quarter of it. Originally, I'm like, it could give or take, but After seeing it in person, it kind of grew on me pretty quickly. And I'm like, you know what? It breaks the car up. It doesn't make it look like a jelly bean like a lot of these Fiestas do. It kind of gives it some depth on the side. I'm like, you know what? I like it. He's like, well, here's what happened. Cylinder number 4 kind of, lost compression. So he tore the motor down, put it back together. Now it won't start. He's tired of messing with it. I'm like, you know what? It's a perfect place for me to step in. He's like, I've already got a spare motor. I'm just done messing with it. Want out of it. So we wheeled and dealed back and forth a little bit. Car's got a ton of aftermarket parts on it. He wanted more money for it. I didn't want to pay more money for it because I was cheap. And I'm like, this and that. We eventually settled about $5,000. I'm like, you know what? It's a good price. These cars in good condition sell for 10 to 12, depending. I'm like, you know what? $5,000 gives me room to work, buy more parts, put it back together. Like between labor, this and that, I'll probably be at the cost of a good one, but labor's free because I get to do it myself. So start with pulling the car back up into the shop. Why is the picture's not moving? I'm on the wrong screen. It came with a whole bunch of parts stuffed in the back of this thing. I mean, there's just literally spares and this and that. There's brakes for it. There's shocks for it. There's a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, it's a good deal, all things considered. It's got a good skid plate that I haven't put on yet still because I'm lazy and slow. So this was July 8th of 2024. We bought the car. July 17th, start tearing stuff down. We got the motor out of it on the 23rd. On the 24th, I picked up new seats for it because the seats were missing because he had sold them because he was basically gutting the car to sell it or make a proper caged rally car out of it. Neither of which you need the stock seats for, but they're kind of hard to find and expensive. So I ended up finding a set for like $700 for the proper Recaros out of this car. Got the engine out of it, tore the engine down. This is the factory engine. There's a bunch of just gunk and shit in it. So basically we decided immediately, okay, the other engine's going in this car right away. Like we're not going to bother trying to salvage this one. Something's clearly wrong inside of it. It's not worth messing with. We've got a sealed motor. So we put the sealed motor in, or we started working on the sealed motor. Realized the turbo, the front housing had came loose on it, which had then ground down the edges of the blades of the turbo, which makes it not good. It's probably technically okay. It could have filed the grooves down, but it had gotten a little bit torn up, whatever. So the rational thing to do was order the big turbo kit from Whoosh Motorsports and get the S280, bigger turbo. The factory ST turbo is here on the left. My turbo is on the right. It is noticeably bigger, makes more power. Should be a great upgrade for the car that I haven't gotten to drive stock yet. So I'm like, well, at the very least, I could buy a stock $80 turbo off these cars because everyone takes them off to put on something else. Or I just buy the good turbo and I put it on once and I'm done with it. So bought the good turbo, got it all back together, did my first couple of drives tuning it. I'm like, even on a base tune, it feels pretty good. The other thing about this car was the roof had some paint missing from it around this hole, and it started to either kind of surface rust or bubble. So the previous owner had sanded a little square off. Well, instead of painting it, I'm like, let's just throw some black wrap on it. It's just a black car. It should be fine. Kind of scuffed the area, got it all nice and smooth. Then threw some black Vivid vinyl over top of it. Looks good as new. Cut the hole out for the antenna, slapped it together. Bada bing, bada boom. Did some work on the car. Got all my bass tunes done. Ran awesome. Drove awesome. Makes a bunch of power. It's close to 300 wheel horsepower. 6-speed manual. Kind of a light car. It's a ton of fun. Got everything all kind of sorted out, fully tuned. And then once I got into summer, because this was late September, once it was all tuned up, got into summer next year, up into May. Well, it was 100 degrees and humid, and it wouldn't cool the car down to the point where I was happy. It was getting to the 220s, 230s, hit 240 once. I'm like, okay, it's too warm. I'm not going to run it like this. So we got a big radiator for mount tune and put it in the car. That changed the temps drastically. It runs at like 186 all the time now. It's way cooler, way happier. If it hits 200, I just let off the gas and it'll start dropping a degree a second. It's awesome. Put the Coney orange shocks that came with the car on it at this point. Kind of just did a bunch of little other fixing, some leaks and stuff, whatever else, oil change. Cars ran great ever since. And that is, I believe, all of my pictures for my little garage duty today. So, to recap, that is 15 different things that I have owned, operated, whatever else. And to this day, let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out of those 15 things, I still have 7 of them. That would be the DRZ 110, the 94 Ford Ranger. I also have the 2019 Ranger, got the F350 Old Milwaukee, the trailer, the Honda Fit, and the Fiesta. All still in my possession. All of them still mostly run. The Blue Ranger could run with a wiring harness, but, you know, it's neither here nor there. But yeah, my fleet's gotten pretty big over the years, and I thought it'd be kind of cool since I let everyone have the week off to kind of just go through a quick recap of all the things I've owned. And it was kind of fun for me to kind of scroll back through all my pictures and see where I've been, where I've done, the things I've owned, the things I forgot about, you know. Going through all these pictures, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I did own a blank, and I guess, oh, I had it here, and this must have overlapped with that. You know, it's kind of a fun little thing, but that's all the rambling and ranting I've got for today, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.